In this training course, we're going to start by learning key Microsoft Visio concepts, and we will do it by drawing basics flowchart diagram. We will continue training course and draw organizational chart diagram. Then I'll teach you how to draw floor plan diagram, and then we'll do network architecture diagram. At the end of training course, I'll show you some key Microsoft Visio keyboard shortcuts that will help you use the tool. Let's start by learning Visio fundamentals and drawing basics flowchart diagram at the same time. To launch Visio, in Windows 10, you can type Visio in the search bar in Cortana bar, and it will pop up in the list, and this would be the first. On this screen, you see the list of available templates. You can use this list to start any diagram based on the template. For example, flowchart diagram or detailed network diagram. By selecting the diagram, and you can easily do it, you can just double click on the template. Visio will bring in the list of stencils on the left, and stencils are just the groups of shapes that's available for the specific diagram, and you can just start drawing diagram immediately. I'm going to close the file and come back to File New, where you will see a list of available templates where we started. As you can see, there are a lot of different templates available. One of them is taking a tour, and in this template you'll learn about Microsoft Visio's key features, which is a very nice template, but I'm not going to cover it since I'd like you to watch my tutorial. If you scroll down, you see all the available templates, and Visio has quite a few of them. You can also search for available template. For example, flowchart would be one of the templates that I would be searching for, and it presents you with the list of available templates. As I mentioned, to select particular template, you just double click on this. It might prompt you what type of metric units would you want to use, either US or metric units. But besides that, you should be able just to select and open up template. I'm going to select basic flowchart template and click on it. And as you see, as I already mentioned, Visio added a lot of shapes that you typically use with flowchart diagrams to create flowchart diagrams, and it grouped them into the basic flowchart diagram stencils. It also added some other relevant shapes, for example, cross-functional flowchart shapes, if you would like to do swim lane diagram. And if you need more shapes, you can select. Shapes are categorized based on categories, business, engineering, flowchart, and you can go down the list. To add more shapes, you just select, and you see now we have basic flowchart shapes, cross-functional flowchart shapes, and then basic shapes. To start creating diagram, all you need to do is drag and drop the item from the left onto the screen, and you can zoom in and you can zoom out. Let's look, before we start drawing actual diagram, at the menu. And as for any other Office application, Microsoft uses ribbon bar for Visio as well. Ribbon bar consists of multiple selection choices. File choice is unique, but home, insert, design, data, and other tabs, as you can see, I can move between them by clicking on the tab. If we look at the home tab, we have items grouped into based on the particular category. Like clipboard is one of the groups, and it contains all operations related to clipboard. Font is another group, and you can kind of go from left to right and see everything that's available in the home tab. Each tab consists of different groups, and you can select icons based on the function that you're trying to accomplish in Visio. Some of the functions, like font, they have a details button, and if you click on this, it brings a dialog box which contains all items that are relevant to the font, and these items couldn't fit into the font group on the ribbon toolbar, so Microsoft created a special dialog box where you can go and select everything you need related to the font. In this tutorial, I'm going to focus on the student enrollment process. And on this diagram, as you can see, we already have one box on the diagram. You can zoom in and get a little bit closer, and that's what I'm going to do, or you can zoom out. So once we have the box, we can drag and drop it on the screen. And there are a couple options how we can add additional boxes. So, for example, we need a second box. First one would be student submitting registration form. Second box would be a decision point, and decision points typically on the flowchart diagram represented by diamonds. And this is the diamond that we're going to drag here on the screen. Now let's add a text here. And what I did, I double-clicked on the rectangle, and I'm just going to start typing on the keyboard. You see the cursor is flashing, so I can just say student submit the registration form. Now I am going to create an arrow and connect it with the arrow, and for that I'm going to switch to the connector. And as you can see, as I hover on top of the rectangle, it changes the connection point from black and adds a green rectangle, and I'm going to glue one connection point from the rectangle to the diamond. I'm going to switch back to the pointer tool, double click on the diamond, and type here form complete. Put a question mark here because this is a decision point. And now I can draw a line from connector, from diamond back to the submission form, and going to indicate no. And you see now I didn't double click, I just had the connector selected and I started typing, and I hit enter. Or I need to switch back to the pointer tool, and I do have no here. You see how many clicks I had to do and switch between pointer tool and connector. So fortunately Microsoft created much easier way for us to add additional shapes. To do that, you need to select, for example, diamond, and you know that the next shape would be a rectangle. So what you do, you hover, and you see this light blue hovers available in different directions where you can actually add a shape. And I did not click anything, I just hovered, and you see that I have rectangle, I have square and circles here. So I'm just going to select rectangle, and I'm going to unselect everything just to show you that it not just added a rectangle, but it also added an arrow and connected arrow. It connected diamond and rectangle, and it connected it where I started hovering and selecting the rectangle. So that makes adding shapes much faster. To type a text, you need to select and start typing. So we're going to start typing next step in the process. Verify details of submission. And if I click enter, it will just go to the next line, so I can click escape. That's one of the options. Or with the mouse, I can just click outside of the rectangle, and it will finish adding a text to the rectangle. Now, as you can see, I'm in the basic shapes right now, but I'm creating flowchart diagram. So some of the shapes are interchangeable, but let's say I don't see the letter shape, as one of the steps in the process is to write an acceptance letter. So I scrolled here, and I see that I mistakenly started doing the diagram with basic shapes. So Visio provides a very cool feature where you can replace one shape with another shape. So for example, we have just a rectangle shape in the basic shapes, but we can replace it with the process shape. So we just have to be in the basic flowchart shapes, select the shape, and then we change shape, and we select the process shape from the change shape diagram. Then we need to select diamond, and we can replace diamond with the decision. And here we can replace rectangle with the process shape. Right? Nothing stops us from replacing diamond, for example, with rectangle. Let me demonstrate this. So I selected diamond right now. Let me make it a little bit closer so you can see, and I can just change shape and replace it with rectangle. Right? So it would be process shape. But I'm not happy with the result. This is not what I intended to do, so I can undo this operation. And there are multiple ways to undo everything. So you can click undo here on the quick toolbar, or you can see these are all the shapes that we've done so far. You can undo many steps, and let's say by mistake I undid too many steps, so now I can redo. That's another button, and it will complete all the steps up to that point. So the only thing I need to undo now is to go back to diamond as a decision point. Now we would need to add a couple more steps about accepting or rejecting the submission, and if submission is accepted, then we'll write acceptance letter. If it's rejected, then we notify a student about the rejection. So to do that, we go into decision shapes. Remember I showed you, you can drag and drop. Very similar process, doesn't matter which stencils you use in Visio. Or we can select the shape, a rectangular shape, and then add a decision point diamond, type accept submission question mark. If we say yes, then we say write acceptance letter, and let's draw an acceptance letter back to the student. I didn't select the shape type, but I can change the shape letter, so I can just say acceptance letter, and as I mentioned, all I need to do is select acceptance letter, and I can change the shape, and this is the letter shape, and this would be my acceptance letter. It's basically a document shape, not necessarily a letter shape, but I'm going to use it as a document. And here we would want to say yes, so I just need to select an arrow and say this is the yes condition, and in case there is a no condition, I'll have an additional box here, notify student on the rejection. Now, as we've done with creation of the diagram, let's see what else we can do to make it look more professional. A couple of things I'd like to do is I'd like to make it more readable, and there's no better way to make it more readable than, first of all, to see if something is missing. For example, you see that this is diamond as a condition box. Looks like I missed yes here, so that's one of the condition. Here I missed the no condition on this diamond box. But besides that, a couple other things you can do is maybe to increase your fonts to make it more readable. How would you increase font? You need to select the shape, so you need to make sure that you have the pointer tool selected. Maybe make it a little bit smaller so it fits. Select everything by dragging and dropping and selecting the area. Now everything is selected, and you can use the font increase button here on the font size, and you see how it goes and increases font size. Now this is probably too much, 12 pointers, but I think 10 pointers was just the right size. Now you might like the this default style, but you can also change the styles, and in fact there is a very nice design tab here, and you can switch from one design to the other and pick the one that you'd like. There also, for example, you like this design. I like a lot of contrasts and a lot of bright colors. But then you can switch to different variants. This is one variant, this is another variant, and all of them are listed here. Same with the themes for the selection. You can click modern theme, for example, or you can pick one of the professional themes. Instead of just selecting first ones, you can select the one that you like the most. Since we're in the design tab, a couple other things you can do, maybe select the background. Like right now we have a white background. You can have maybe world domination background if this is applicable, or if you don't like it, just select Ctrl-Z and we'll go back to the white background. Now let's take another look at the diagram. A couple other things that might be missing. For simplicity purposes, I didn't have a start or end point here, but typically flowchart diagram does have start and end point. So we're going to select everything like I did for font selection by dragging and dropping the selection in the pointer tool. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag and drop start box. And I can just say that this is start of the process by double clicking on it. I am going to connect it with the arrow here. Same thing you probably would want to do at the end point. And there are two endpoints. One is to notify student on the rejection, and then acceptance letter. So it might make sense for us to drag and drop the endpoint right here, and then connect both acceptance letter and notification of the student right there. So I didn't show you one other cool way of adding shapes here, which is copy and paste. So I'm going to switch back to pointer tool, select the start. You can do copy, and if you do paste, it pastes the box. So in addition, remember, as we will recap, you have a way of just dragging and dropping the shape. Then you have a way of adding more shapes through these extensions. Copy and paste is another way how you can add shapes. And now we need to connect it through the connector. So I'm going to connect it from both notify student and the rejection and from the acceptance letter. Now, as you can see, and as you can see here, start and end have a little bit different font, and let's double check this. So start has 8 points, and start here is actually an end, so we need to fix that and change that. So we would want to change this, and obviously another way to change the font size is through the font selection, and same thing we would want to do. So if you're planning to copy and paste, that's really one advice I have for you. You probably would want to change the way a box should look like, whatever box it is or whatever shape it is, and then copy and paste it, so this way you don't have to change after the fact, after you pasted it in many places like we had to do right now. As we continue, let's look at the diagram. Let's zoom out a little bit and see if this makes sense. Maybe we can optimize it a little bit more. So to do that, we can select selective part of the diagram and maybe drag it, and you see arrow because they are connected, they continue. So this way it fits onto the page better. And one of the coolest features of the Visio diagram, obviously you can save it, and what I typically like to do, I save it as PDF file. So I just click File, Save As. First of all, you probably would want to save the diagram itself, and then here we'll just say basic flow chart diagram. But as we save it as, you have an option of saving it as PDF file, and then it saves it as PDF, and now it open in the browser, but obviously you can open it up in PDF reader. I'm going to close the Edge browser, close all tabs, and I'm going to select everything and center it on the page. So this way when we create a PDF from it, it's a nice looking PDF and everything is in the center of the page. Now let's recap everything we did. We started Microsoft Visio. We've looked at the ribbon toolbar. We looked at the navigation. As you saw, most of the actions I had to do were in the Home tab. I had to switch to Design tab to change different patterns. Inside Visio, we've looked at the zooming toolbar. Another way to do zooming, by the way, is you click View and then zoom, and it shows you specific zooming percentage or specific zooming magnification levels that you like to do. So we've looked at navigation, we've looked at different shape types that's available, and we've added basic shapes. We also looked at how to add shapes by dragging and dropping. That's one way to add shapes. Then we've added shapes through the help extension, right? You see this light blue triangles that showed up. And then the third way was through copy and paste. Once we created a basic flowchart diagram, and this was student registration process, we selected the diagram and changed the themes and variants, going in the Design tab and going into Variants tab. And after we've completed the work, we saved the file as PDF file. And another way to take advantage of this diagram is by selecting it, and I'm going to use copy. And obviously you can paste it into documents like Word. So I'm just going to demonstrate it real quick. And I'm going to show the Word document. We have the diagram and clipboard, and we'll just click paste. And the diagram as a single object is selected in Microsoft Word. And now let's look at how you can draw organizational chart diagram in Visio. By the end of the video, I'll show you how to create this type of org chart diagram in Microsoft Visio. Fastest way to create organizational chart as Visio is to type org in the search bar, which shows organizational chart. And it shows you multiple options. You can do wizard, you can do department organizational chart, and you can do hierarchical organizational chart. We'll do department organizational chart. That's the best fit for what we're trying to do. And here you see Microsoft put together right away the sample Visio org chart. You can use this if this matches your structure, but we will start from the beginning. So I'm going to delete this org chart with all the shapes. Now, to create the organizational chart, we'll be using chart for the manufacturing company. We'll start with executive notch. And let's do a quick overview before we move any further. We have multiple shapes here. Executive is the top of an organizational chart hierarchy. Managers report to executives, and then you have different people reporting to managers. So these are the key shapes we will be using. So we'll start with executive, and executive would be a president. So you just drag and drop shape as I did. And let's zoom in a little bit closer. So we'll put a name here. And what I did, I just clicked on the title. It was an empty text box, and I just started typing. And when I'm done, I clicked on another place outside of the shape, or maybe another text box inside the shape. In a typical structure, VPs report to the president. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take manager's notch and drag it on top of the president. And you see what it did? It created reporting hierarchy. And I'm going to say that this will be Darwin. Now I'm going to create another VP of production, and I'm going to do the same thing. Drag VP of production shape on top of the president's shape, and that's how you build reporting hierarchy in Visio. And I'm quickly going to add another shape for VP of sales. So now you see we've built top of the company's hierarchy. What we're going to do next is we are going to create a managerial position. So under each VP, we'll create a manager, and then I'll show you a couple things you can do with employees. So manager, we're going to use the same, we can use the same notch, same color, or we can use position notch. I'm going to use position notch just to show the difference. So under VP of sales, we'll create a manager. Managers or VPs, they hire consultants on specific projects. So what we will do here, we will drag a shape, and now we have consultant. To show that vacancy reports directly to Jane, I'm going to drag this shape and drop it under Jane. And you see it created relationship. Now I'm going to move shape a little bit to the left. So it will show that reporting structure is vacant position reports directly to Jane. I'm going to build some additional shapes in the diagram through quick forward, because I think you got the idea. And what I'm going to do, just create the structure so we can use it to show you additional cool features that Visio provides. So now I'm done building the structure, and what you can see is we have a very nice org structure diagram. Let's see what else we can do. For example, sometimes a president might have an assistant, so you do the same thing. You take assistant notch and you drop it on the president. Now, what else you can do to make it look nice are typically org charts. Look very nice when you give them pictures. So what you can do, you can click on the notch and you do right mouse click and say picture, change picture. And what we're going to do, we will look at couple of the stock photos. So this is Amani Burke. We'll just insert Amani. Then we'll do the same thing for Leslie. I just need to find Leslie. Then we will have Jane here. And I'll do it in the fast forward so you guys don't have to see me struggling, because it's the same operation. So now we're done with all the pictures, and I've noticed that I made a mistake, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. You see that for all the managers, Jane Smith and Robert Siddiq, I used blue shapes. And mistakenly for Andrea Roberts, I used VP shape. So what I'm going to do, the easiest way, you can obviously delete it and bring the right shape. But if you want to keep the information that's already in the shape and just fix the shape, there's an easier way to do it. So what you do, you select the shape, and you see on the Home tab there is a Change Shape button, and you pick the right shape, and the right shape for me is the blue shape. And now the change is made. Now let's zoom out a little bit, and I'll show you a couple cool things. What you can do. First of all, you can change the design and view of your diagram, and the best way to do it is there is a new org chart tab in Visio that you can see, and you can just switch between different options, and it will change the layout for the shapes and pick even a different shape. So we are in notch type layout, and that's a default, but you can switch and try different ones. Since we're here in this tab, I'm going to pinpoint a couple other cool options. So you can change different layout. We use horizontal center layout, but there are other ones. So if you change them, you see how it redesigns the diagram right away, but keeps all the information in the shapes. You can use vertical or side by side. I'll let you play with those different layouts. You can also use option best to fit to the page, right? And that moves it directly for you based on how Visio thinks is the best fit for the page. You can also move it by selecting everything and moving it around. You can also select spacing between the shapes by clicking plus and minus buttons next to the spacing icon. And if you're a sophisticated user, what you can do, you can import organizational chart, and that's a topic for another video. Or you can export the structure and compare the data. This allows you, the cool features that this allows you to maintain the org chart from the database and rebuild it. If you have a large organization and you don't want to build it every time manually, you can just use the import feature and re-import the data, and it will resync everything. There are a couple additional cool notches that you can use. For example, if you want to add title to the diagram, you can say, just drag and drop the title date notch, and you can say, this is ABC Company, or whatever the company is, and then it will automatically create a title for you. A couple other cool things. If you know that you have like multiple team members, for example, three team members reporting directly, like we knew that three VPs report directly to president, you can drag the three position notch and drag and drop it under vacant position, for example, and this will rebuild the structure and will automatically build three positions underneath of the vacant position. You can do it for any shape. What if you have more than three positions or less than three? You can use multiple shapes structure, and you can just drag and drop it under the shape, and then it will provide you the questions. How many shapes would you like to add? What type of shapes? Which is pretty cool. And then you pick the hierarchy. What's the best fit for this particular reporting hierarchy? Sometimes organizations run projects. So what you do, you can identify project group and you use what's called team frame. So you just drag team frame, you group this, and then the last thing I'm going to show you is the dotted line reporting relationship. So sometimes people report what's called dotted line. So they have primary reporting relationship, but also indirect reporting relationship. So let's say Andrea reports to also VP of sales, not just global marketing. So we just drag this line, and that creates this dotted line reporting relationship. Now let's look at some other cool features of Microsoft Visio, what it allows you to do. If you click on the design tab, we can quickly change the design. Maybe you like the layout, but you don't like the design. So Visio provides a lot of themes, and each theme has variant, and you can also pick a background. So let me show you one option, and then you can experiment based on what you're trying to do and pick the one that you like. So you pick the theme that you like, and I'm just going to move from theme to theme, and you see how it changes the picture. You can pick, for example, modern design, and it not just changes the color of the shapes, it changes fonts as well. And within modern design, for example, you can pick different variants. You can also change not just colors, but you can also change type of connectors and use different effects and use different colors. So if we pick different connectors, maybe let's put slice connector, if this is what you like. And then backgrounds, couple pre-built backgrounds. Obviously you can insert your own image for the background, but let's just pick this world, and you see this. Now you have a global manufacturing company. Looks very good. I like it. Maybe we can disagree on design, colors and themes, but the only thing I don't like is the size of the font. It's kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all. You can select all by dragging all the shapes, or you can also select all by pressing Control A on the keyboard, and then we go back to Home tab and click Font Increase, and you can probably increase it up to limits where you can, looks like Antonio is hard to fit, but I think this is pretty good. Now let's look at how you can draw floor plan diagram in Visio. To do this calculation, I decided to use Microsoft Visio, create floor plan, and then use automatic features of Visio to calculate square footage. And this is what we're going to focus on in this video. I'm going to show you how to create a simple floor plan, how to do calculations, and how to use all the cool features Visio provides related to floor plan. To create floor plan in Visio, you need to launch the application and type floor plan in the search box. As you can see, there are a lot of different plans Visio allows you to create, like office layout, home plan, floor plan, directional map 3D, and a lot of others. So if you need those specific ones, please explore those options. But in this video, we're going to focus on the floor plan. I'm going to click on the floor plan. And as you can see, Visio brings all the stencils on the left needed to create the floor plan. By default, Visio opens walls, shells, and structure stencils, but you also have points of interest, electrical and telecom, drawing tool shapes, and dimensional architecture. And you can also add more shapes as needed. Just wanted to mention before I forgot that if you're interested to learn more about the subject, make sure to click the subscribe button. We have tons of things in the pipeline, and I'm excited to share all of them with you. It is very simple to create floor plan if your room is rectangular. You just select rectangular room in Visio and bring it into the main screen. Visio allows you to zoom in so you can see bigger size of the room, and you can see the sizes. So make sure as you're creating floor plan that you measure the size of the room first, and then you can adjust the sizes here in the application. This particular room we are looking at is 21 feet by 26 feet and 3 inches. Now let's add a door into our room. You can just drag the door stencil and it will automatically add into the wall. So this is the door. You can do a couple things with the doors. You can make it bigger depending upon what the size of your door is. Typically it's 3 feet door that you have in the room. So you can play with this. If it's hard to adjust it with just the mouse, you can always click properties and say, okay, my door is 3 feet. And it will become a 3 feet door. You can also change how far the door is opened here. And obviously doors can open and close in different sizes of the room, so you can play with that too. To do that, you just do a right mouse click and you can say revert left right opening. You can do that. Or you can also reverse in and out opening. So those are the very cool features. As with any Visio stencil, you can copy and paste. So if you select the door, you can copy the door and then paste it. And I accidentally selected Format Painter, which I didn't intend. So you can select the door, click copy, and then click paste, and it will create another door. If you want to maintain the size, so maybe it's the walk-through room, right? This way you don't have to adjust the sizes after you create it. Creation of windows in the floor plan is also extremely easy. You drag the window stencil into the room and drop it right on the wall. You can adjust window sizes the same way. If you'd like to learn more about Microsoft Visio, I recommend an online training course. I carefully selected this training course and hope you will enjoy it. Just navigate to howtoanalyzedata.net/Visio to take advantage of the discounted price. I make a small commission to support this channel, but don't buy anything unless you need it. Now let's continue and have more fun. If your house consists of just rectangular rooms, you can bring in another rectangular room and adjust as needed. And you can do as many of those rectangular rooms as you need. As a next step, you can add doors and windows into those new rooms that you just put together. On the other hand, if your house does not have rectangular rooms, but all the rooms or some of the rooms are odd shapes, Visio still makes it possible to do floor plan even for odd shape rooms. To do floor plan for the odd shape rooms, you need to bring in wall stencils one after another and create configuration of the room of the odd shape. It is a little bit more work, but the good thing, it is still possible. The reason I selected Visio to create a floor plan is because Visio can calculate square footage of the created floor plan automatically. This is a very nice feature and very useful if you're trying to calculate square footage, especially for odd shapes room. To calculate square footage, you need to take the space stencil and bring it into the space. In this example, I brought it into the first room I've created in this floor plan. The next step is you do a right mouse click and click Auto Size. And as you can see, the space stencil expanded to fill in the size of the room. And it automatically calculated the size, which is 551 square foot. You can also rename the office here by clicking on Properties and saying what's the actual name of the room. It could be Master Bedroom in this example. If you think that the Visio is the right application to do the work that you're trying to do and build the floor plan, make sure to check out other training links I provide in the description for this video to help you learn more about Visio. And good luck on your project. And now let's look at how you can draw network architecture diagram in Visio. In this section, we're going to look at how you can create professionally looking 3D networking diagram in Microsoft Visio. So first thing you see is this screen when you launch Microsoft Visio. We're going to pick a blank drawing, or you can basically pick a detailed networking diagram. It doesn't matter because we're going to pick some stencils that will serve our purpose the best. As you know, when you pick the blank screen, you don't have any stencils here. So you have to select the stencils, and these are the shapes that you're going to use when you draw your diagram. So we're going to click More Shapes button, and we're going to click Network. And we are going to click Network and Peripherals 3D. I found that this is probably the most professionally looking. You might have different opinions, obviously, but that's what I like. And there are different shapes here. You have servers, ring network, pretty much all the items that you may ever need when you try to represent networking. We're going to start with servers, and we're going to take this server box and we're going to bring it into the main screen. I kind of envision that my diagram will be more horizontal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the view of the page, and to do that I am going to go to Design Orientation, and instead of Portrait I'm going to pick Landscape Orientation. So this way I can represent better what I'm trying to represent. So this is going to be my first server, and what I'm going to do now, I am going to give this server some characteristics. and they would be the type of operating system that server runs, location, memory, IP address type, and give the server name. This is not necessary for every diagram. You have to decide what you specifically want to represent, but this is something that I'd like to represent here because this is something that makes value and adds descriptive information for my viewers. So I've added the information for my server. I'm just gonna zoom it in a little bit. And there are a couple tricks you can use in order to see this in a better way. First of all, you can hide the shapes and stencils. This will give you more room on the screen to see it. You can unhide them as easily. Or you can zoom in and zoom out into the areas. This is the zoom in button and this is the zoom out button. So what you see, it's a Windows Server 2012 located at Milwaukee Data Center. It has 8 gig of RAM, IP address, and this is the static IP. Now I kind of don't like it when it's on at the bottom, so I'm going to move it to the side of the server box. In order to do that, I click once on the server, and you see this yellow box. This is where the center of the text is located. So all I need to do, I just need to drag this yellow box and move it to the left of the server. So I kind of like it a little bit more. Now I also would like to add information for the server, like a server name, which is different from all of this descriptive information for the server. And if you want to edit this, you can. For example, if you want to say, okay, this is my OS, which stands for operating system, you can do that. And you can say, okay, this would be bold, and the operating system name is not going to be bold, and maybe location will be bold, and all this information will be bold. The type of information and the information itself will not be displayed as bold, right? So probably if you do that, though, you might want to align it to the left. Right now it's right aligned text. You probably want to align it to the left, and then this is how it's going to look. And then it probably might make sense to have it here. So it's just going to be more professionally looking. This is some interesting tricks of what you can use in Microsoft Visio. Now, as I mentioned, I'd like to add the server name. And to do that, I'm just going to bring in, there are a couple ways to do it. First of all, you can add text. And you can just bring a text box here. So you go insert, and you insert the text box. And you can pick between horizontal text box and vertical text box. I'm going to pick horizontal text box. But in my case, I like to prefer to insert callouts. They come in the different shapes, and for this particular server name, what I'd like to do, I'd like to insert this shape, and I'm going to name it as a sales server 01, and this would be my server name. So it's not a dot, it's a -2, and this would be my sales server 01. And I'm just going to make it bold as well. And you can choose fonts. You can pretty much apply any formatting that you like. And I'm going to put it underneath of this server. Now, this is my first server. And the good thing is, now I can do copy and paste. I can, first of all, I can group these 3 boxes. I can select. It's actually 2 boxes. Server box was the description and the callout. In terms of Visio objects. So I can do a right mouse click and I can select group and group, and now I can drag it as a single object, which is very nice. And you can group as many objects as you need, so that's the purpose of the grouping function. Now what I can do as well, I can copy this, and I'm just going to show it through the menu, because you can also do it through the keyboard. So you did right mouse click copy, and then you did paste. And here you go, you've got a second server, right? And the second server might run the same operating system, but will definitely have a different server name and different IP address. Document sharing 01, and I'm just going to change IP address. So instead of, I have to ungroup it, unfortunately. Grouping, ungroup. And now I should be able to edit text. So this would be 02. I am going to copy it again. And I'm just going to copy and I'm going to do paste. So this is going to be my server 3. And this would be marketing box, marketing files, or marketing share. It doesn't really matter as long as it represents the actual names. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to use marketing sharing. This would be 03. And now you can add some other features of the typical networking diagram. For example, you can add a firewall, and you can choose the size of the firewall. And if necessary, you can use connectors and connect your server to the firewall. If you choose to do that, you probably would want to change the location and play with the location of the boxes. So it wouldn't overlap with your text. So probably if you're trying to display connections, it makes sense maybe to have firewall on the left. So let's do that. I'm just going to remove this connector. I'm then going to do Control Z, or you can do undo. I'm going to switch back to pointer tool, drag the servers to the right, have the firewall on this side, and then use my connectors to connect the server here. And you can certainly play with the lines and make it look the way you want it to. So probably would make sense. This would be the most professional line. And you can have other features of the line like arrows and some other things as you need to. So this would be my second line, and this would be my third line. It makes sense for it to go kind of to display the network connectivity. In the previous section, we've created professionally looking 3D networking diagram. If you would like to learn more how this was done, just go back and watch the first video. In this section, we're going to look how to make it look prettier and more professional. We just use default objects and default fonts and default lines from Visio. Now I would like to add some specificity and make it look more professional and use more professional design scheme, maybe potentially adding some arrow endings and using some features of the Visio that are easy to use, but at the same time help you make your diagram look prettier. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the lines. And you see that these lines, they don't have any arrows in the end. And Visio allows us to add arrows. Sometimes you want to show the data flow. In this way, it's bidirectional, right? It goes from firewall into the server and back from the server into the firewall. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the home, click a pointer tool. This is where we can select the object and look at the properties of the object. And here we're going to look at what type of connector, first of all, we can use. Could be a straight connector, right? And this is the difference between the straight connector and the other connector that we had. I'm going to use undo button to go back. I like this one more. I don't like straight connector, but that's just my preference. I'm also going to look at the format shape. And here you see the format shape details on the right. And it shows what are the options that are available. First of all, we can change color. We can change the dash type. Right now it's solid, but you can use some dashes here if you want to. I'm going to keep it as is. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the begin arrow type, and I'm going to use this type of arrow. And I'm also going to do the end arrow type, and I'm going to use the same type of arrow. And I'm going to do this for all the arrows. To me, it's more professional. You might disagree as a viewer, but good thing to know is that you have choices, and you can choose something that you consider to be professional looking. So this arrows. Now, I don't like these colors. I mean, just because they're default and everybody's probably using it without understanding that there are some easy ways to make the color theme better. And I'm going to show this to you real quick. If we go to Design tab, we have Themes option, right? And you can just click here and see how many of those themes are available. I'm not a professional designer, but if I see something that looks professional, I like that. So if you're the same way, this is really helpful. And you can pick different themes here. So for example, let's just try this one. And you can probably even move from theme to theme and pick something that you like. So let's say I found something that I like, which this one looked pretty similar to original one. But I kind of like the modern design, even though server is typically not depicted. So this is probably the best one. Now you have some variations of this. So once you selected the modern design, right, you can choose the color theme and play with the colors. Right, so there are a lot of different options for the colors. What you got to keep in mind when you pick the design theme, keep in mind that it's most likely will be printed at black and white. So if you pick very contrast colors or something that would be on a darker background, it might be hard to see when you print it. So that's what I always try to keep in mind when I print such diagrams. And you see when you change the theme and variant, it also changed the stencils and shapes and how they're going to look when you bring them over. So keep that in mind too if you're planning to add additional objects. You can also change and add background. So for example, if it's like a global network, you can put a global background if you like. So that also looks professional, but you might want to reconsider the variants and the colors once you do that. So this is probably going to look a little prettier.
And now let's look at the Microsoft Visio most useful keyboard shortcuts.
I'll start with my favorite shortcut that helps me align shapes. As you can see in e-commerce shopping cart, some of the shapes are misaligned. So what you need to do, you need to select all the shapes and press F8 button. That brings Align Shape dialog box, and in my case, I'm going to align them horizontal alignment in the center. My other favorite shortcut is Control S, which helps me save the document, which is just an equivalent of clicking the Save button here. In Visio, you need to constantly change between Pointer tool, Connector tool, and Text tool. And you can do it by pressing Ctrl+1 to select the Pointer tool. And this way you can move the objects or resize them as needed. You can use Ctrl+2 to select the Text tool and make the changes to the text. And click Escape to leave the text editing option. And you can use Ctrl+3 to switch to the Connector tool, and this way you can connect objects. Next, let's look at the set of shortcuts to help you manipulate the objects. For example, to move the object, you need to select the object and use arrow keys. You can move it up, you can move it right, you can move it left, you can move it down. If you need more precise movements, you need to use Shift arrow. Shift arrow allows you to move objects in the smaller increments. Ctrl+L helps you rotate shape to the left. Ctrl+R helps you rotate shape to the right. Ctrl+G allows you to group objects so you can move them as one single object. To do that, you need to select all the objects that you're trying to group and press Ctrl+G. Then you move them as a single entity. To ungroup the objects, you need to press Ctrl+Shift+U. Oftentimes, you work with multiple objects, and they are laying on top of each other. To move objects back and forth, you can use Ctrl+Shift+F to bring object to the front and Ctrl+Shift+B to bring object to the back. Oftentimes, you need to draw different shapes in Visio. There are different keyboard shortcuts to help you switch between the drawing tools. You can use Ctrl+4 to select Pencil tool, Control 5 to select Freeform tool, which allows you to maybe draw a cloud if you're working on the architecture diagram. Control 6 allows you to select the line tool, which allows you to draw a straight line. Control 8 allows you to select rectangular tool, so you can draw rectangle boxes and you can start typing text right away. Control 9 allows you to select ellipse tool, so you can draw ellipse shapes. One of my favorite shortcuts is Control-Shift-P, which allows you to activate Format Painter. Format Painter is helpful when you need to copy attributes from one object to another, and these attributes include color of the object, format of the text, and a lot of different things. To do that, you need to select the object, then press Control-Shift-P. This activates Format Painter, and then apply it to a different object, which mimics the attributes of the original object. You can always use Control-Z to undo the last operation if it's possible. You can also use Control-A to select all objects in the diagram. This allows you to move them very effectively as one single object. You can also use Control-C to copy an object, and then Control-V to paste exactly the same object and then make modifications as needed. You can also copy and paste groups of objects. You need to select them first, press Control-C, and then Control-V. Now let's look at the keyboard shortcuts that help you work with the shape's text. For example, you can select the shape and use Control-U to underline text, and you can undo it with Control-Z. You can also use Control-B to make text bold or normal, and Control-I to make it italic. You can also combine underline, bold, and italic. You can also use Control-Shift-A to make all text caps. You can use Control-Shift-less sign to make text smaller, or you can use Control-Shift-greater sign to make text larger. Sometimes you need to insert the picture, and my secret shortcut is Control-Shift-2, which allows you to crop the picture. To insert online picture, we can click Insert Online Picture, type Server, find the server image we are looking for, click Insert, and now we can use Control-Shift-2 and crop it and remove all unnecessary items. For example, we don't like shade, and this allows me to remove it. Once you're done, you need to hit Enter or hit Outside.
If you like the content, please make sure to click the like button and share with your friends. Also, there's tons of information in the description of this video. Make sure to check it out. Make sure to check out my other relevant videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. We have a lot of great stuff planned in the pipeline, and I don't want you to miss any of it. And if you'd like to get notified about all the new stuff that are coming out, make sure to subscribe to my email list as well. All links are here on the screen. Make sure to click to stay in touch. Thanks again for watching.